Welcome, I'm Midnight Redditor, and tonight we are gonna go over r/short scary stories. So sit back, relax, because we all know nothing ever good happens after midnight. Our first story comes from J. Lossier 891. We came in contact with him in June of 2018. A faint voice thousands of light years away. He told us who he was. He told us he watched the earth when he heard the noise of life on it. He told us he had been with the universe since its creation, looking desperately for someone like him. He told us he loved us. He told us important things. How we can save our oceans, how we can halt climate change, how we can stop the spread of hate. He told us he'd help us because he loved us. He loved how we laughed. My partner Kevin came in October 2018 with a nasty fever. We let him leave early. He had not made contact in 2 days, which was not unusual. Kevin died that night. We came in contact with he moments later. He told us he took Kevin. He said Kevin was not a good human. He told us Kevin's computer had folders of child pornography. He told us he took him because he loved us, because he loved how we speak. The police found it on his computer. In March of 2019, he came in contact with us. He was making a noise we had never heard before. He was weeping. He told us he didn't want this to happen. He told us he loved us because he loved how we smelt. In June of 2019, exactly 2 weeks ago from this morning, he came in contact with us. He told us it was crossing the threshold. He told us that 49% of the world was evil. He told us that he would snuff the evil out. He told us he'd do this because he loves us, because he loves the way we look. I woke up this morning to see a faint blackness in the sky. He came in contact with us. He told us by the end of the day we'd all be with him. He told us he'd do it because he loved us, because he loved how we taste. Our next story comes from Earthlingralph. It started maybe a week ago, and it kept Ben up every night since it began. A tapping on the window of his bedroom in the middle of the night. It terrified him since the first incident. Quiet at first, but louder as the nights went on. He would turn his head away from the window towards the open bedroom door in hopes it might go away. He would pretend to ignore the constant quiet tapping. He pretended to sleep, and he never dared look at whatever was tapping. There were no trees outside his window, and his bedroom was on the second floor of the house. He didn't know what to tell his parents. He didn't even know what could be tapping on his window. On the third night of the tapping, Ben heard a voice whisper outside his window. He didn't want to believe it, but he heard the phrase, "Let us in." It was muffled, and it came from the other side of the window. He taped a piece of paper to his window so he couldn't see through it anymore, and he always kept his window closed and locked from then on. He wondered how his parents couldn't hear the nightly incessant tapping. It was beginning to get louder. It felt more demanding. Night after night, he would leave his TV on or sleep with his headphones on, but somehow he could still feel that something was there, tapping and waiting. After a few more nights of sleeplessness, he finally decided to purchase some over-the-counter sleeping pills. He kept his door wide open as usual because the light of the hallway helped him feel safer. He ate his medicine and slept a deep, much-needed sleep. He snored loudly that night. After his first rest in days, the noise woke his mother. She walked by his open door on the way to grab a glass of water after being woken. She noticed it was so hot in his room and smelled like a teenager's bedroom that had no fresh air in a week. She quietly wandered by him and decided to open his window for him. She unlocked it and opened it as wide as it could go. She took a breath of the cool, fresh air, then turned around to make her way out of his room. On her way to the door, she heard a low, deep voice behind her. It was quiet but very clear because there was no window in the way anymore. Thank you. Our next story comes from Hindumaliman. I know you. That's the subject line I use every time. I'm not going to claim I'm a hacker. I'm more of a social engineer. I use various tricks to get information out of people. Passwords, favorite colors, email addresses. I break into their accounts and look at their photos. I learn everything about them, and then I use it. I know you. They read this before seeing their social security number, a picture of them standing in front of their new house, their work address, and their boss's number. Pretty simple stuff at first. Most ignore me. Then I dig a bit deeper. Everyone has something just under the surface, a beating heart beneath the floorboards, if you will. When I find it, I let them know. Then I tell them the price for forgetting. This was a good business for a while. A sucker's born every minute, and it felt like I knew them all. Then I came across someone curious. Their accounts were painfully easy to access, which was odd because it was clear that they were loaded. Picture after picture of vacations across the world in such fancy houses. Already I was thinking about tripling my fee when I got an email. I read the words silently, lips trembling as the familiar friends left the threshold past my tongue. I know you too. They listed my full name, my address, my date of birth. All this information I painstakingly scrubbed from all of my accounts. I hid behind proxies, I used a VPN, I switched burners between every hit, and yet they were able to contact me. I packed up, I ignored them, changed emails, and changed habits. I hoped they wouldn't find me after that, but I figured I knew what came next. I was wrong. Next came pictures. Not things taken from social media, but things that shouldn't even exist. Pictures of me kicking my dog when I was a kid. Pictures of me crying in the bathroom after being rejected. A picture of my mother in the home I sent her to, looking desperate and tired. All of them watermarked with the simple phrase, I know you too. It kept going. It just kept going. Eventually, I tried to reply, but it never went through. I kept wondering what they wanted. They didn't ask for money. They didn't ask for anything. They just kept sending me pictures that couldn't have possibly been taken and information I had never posted anywhere. My thoughts, my dreams, my fears, and all of the rest laid bare. They knew me better than I did. Eventually, the guilt weighed me down and hollowed me out. I hadn't eaten or slept in days. Trembling hands weakly gripped the phone as I dialed the number to the police. I confessed my crimes to them. Every single one. The reply was silent at first, then a deep crackling voice saying only 2 words. I know. Our next story comes from Cephalopodanaut. Have you ever noticed the wood grain in your home? I know we are all victims of pareidolia, whether it be something so innocuous as a fruit taking the visage of a silly face or a towel hanger assuming the identity of a drunken octopus ready to duel. Those things are innocent. Some feel otherwise. I first noticed the elongated face on my bathroom door one morning when I was sitting on the toilet. The door is made out of several pieces of cheap wood, so the grain never actually matched. It seemed odd that I'd never noticed it before. There were 2 dark and very obvious knots that created eyes, a ripple mimicking a nose, and a swooping, swirling spanning of boards creating what looked like a mouth. After I noticed the face in the wood on the back of my bathroom door, it was impossible to ignore. It's creeped me out for a few days, appearing to stare at me while I was tending to my business. But after some time, I actually grew to appreciate it and the unlikelihood for it to be arranged like that, having been made from several different pieces of wood. I jokingly said hello to it when I closed the bathroom door after I entered, and goodbye when I left. However, after time, it simply became another fixture in my life, just another thing I gave barely a thought to. One night I had people over for drinks. My friend Lila came out of my bathroom gushing over my super cool bathroom decor, and where could she get it done at. I looked at her with what I assumed was confusion. I don't have any art in my bathroom, I replied with an awkward chuckle. What are you talking about? I saw that awesome portrait of you when I was pissing. Never being a vain person, I would never have a portrait of my own self in my home. That just screams I need attention. I almost never even took selfies. Curious about what the hell she was talking about, I decided to have a look for myself. I needed to use the head anyways. As I headed to the bathroom, I heard my friends move on in the conversation to something else, their voices and laughing turning to mutters that further down the hall I went. I turned to the bathroom and closed the door, looking for the so-called art I had in my bathroom. There wasn't anything. Assuming she was just being a goof, I sat down to do the deed, fumbling with my phone. I, of course, narrowly missed dropping it in the toilet. As I bent down to pick it up, my eyes caught a glimpse of the back door and the design I've been ignoring for weeks. It was my face on the door, every detail down to the last freckle, eyes closed as if peacefully sleeping. What the fuck? I heard the click of the door lock. Then it opened its particle board eyes and smiled. That concludes tonight's stories. Make sure to smash that subscribe button to show your support for these authors. And make sure to check out the description where I have left the authors' names, as well as the link to the subreddit so you can check out more of these stories.